Hey guys, it's Toby and this is the £300 gaming PC build guide. Let's go! Alright, first off we have the AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. The 3200G is a 3.6 GHz quad-core APU. Now APU stands for Accelerated Processing Unit, and essentially what this means is that you've got your graphics card and your processor all bundled into one, and when you've got a budget of £300, this is the way to go. So along with the quad-core CPU, you also get the integrated Radeon Vega 8 GPU. The Vega 8 is very capable of playing pretty much any game you throw it at 1080p at 60 FPS depending on the game. The usual suspects like League of Legends, Fortnite, Minecraft, CSGO, Overwatch, you can easily play these at 1080p at 60 FPS, probably around mediums to high settings depending on the game, without any issues at all. Some of the AAA games such as Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, or Death Stranding will need to be played on slightly lower settings. However, this isn't much of a problem as you can upgrade this build later on in the future. More information on that is at the end of the build guide. Now moving on to the motherboard, we're going to be using the MSI B450M PRO-VDH Max. Now this is a great motherboard for two reasons. One, it supports the 3200G right out of the box. Not many motherboards in this price point do that, and this is very crucial as you won't have to do any BIOS upgrades or anything like that. And two, this motherboard has all of your upgrade paths covered. You have everything you'll expect immediately, such as HDMI, USB 3.0, Gigabit Ethernet, HD audio, all of that comes as standard. But in addition to this, you also have support for PCI Express 3.0, which is great when you're adding a graphics card in the future. You have support for an M.2 drive, which we'll be getting onto in a moment, and you also have support for 4 sticks of DDR4 RAM. And coming onto the RAM, we're going to be using 8GB of the PATRIOT Viper 4 Blackout series. Now what we have here is 2 sticks of 4GB RAM clocked at 3200 MHz. Now since we're using the 3200G, it is vital that we get this kind of RAM since it is clocked above 3000 MHz and it is also dual channel. This is important as APUs get about 10 to 15% performance increase when using dual channel fast memory due to the way the CPU and the GPU essentially share the RAM together. And since we're only getting 2 sticks, you can easily upgrade by buying an additional 2 more in the future to get 16GB of RAM. Now coming on to our storage options, we're going to be using the 120GB Western Digital Green M.2 SSD. As I mentioned before, our motherboard does include support for an M.2 drive, and since we are in 2020, getting an M.2 drive is a no-brainer. Even though it's 120GB, you can easily put an operating system and a few games and a few of your favorite programs on this drive, and they will boot up almost instantaneously. In addition to this, we also have the Western Digital 1TB blue hard drive for all your other storage needs such as your photos, videos, memories, documents, you name it. If you ever need more storage, you can always upgrade to the 2TB variant or 4TB variant and beyond. Now coming onto the power supply, we're going to be using the CORSAIR VS450. The VS450 is a 450 watt 80 plus white certified power supply, which means you're going to get clean and efficient power. Also it is 450 watts, which is more than enough for our build. However, this means we have great space to work with when we're upgrading the processor or maybe adding a graphics card or additional storage or additional RAM, which we'll come on to in a moment. Now the final part of the build before we talk about the upgrades is the case. And what we have here is the THERMALTAKE Versa H15. The H15 is a micro ATX case which is great as it is a small compact form factor and it is going to fit our build without any problem at all. It has everything you'll expect, such as support for great cable management facilities around the back. In addition to this, you can also have up to 3 or 4 hard drives and SSDs depending on the combination, and it also has decent airflow with a 120mm rear exhaust fan included. Now case options are kind of subjective, so I will include some other alternatives in the build guide which you can find linked in the description below. And finally, the future upgrade paths. Now in the future, when you're planning on upgrading this build, the first thing you should get is definitely a graphics card. And one of the best graphics cards that you can upgrade to is the GTX 1660. The 1660 will take you from playing the games at 1080p, medium-ish settings, low settings, to playing at 1080p, fully maxed out without any issues at all. It can also push some games to 1440p, and you won't have a problem when it comes to playing the newly released AAA games as they come out. An alternative would be the AMD RX 580. It is cheaper, however it is almost 3 years old, and whilst it does have the ability to take you from playing at 1080p medium-ish settings to 1080p high and maxed out, the newer and newer games are going to be more and more taxing on it, and frankly you're better off with the 1660. But this is a cheaper option to upgrade to. Once you have a graphics card, you can upgrade the 3200G as you will no longer be using the integrated graphics, and you can go to any of the AMD Ryzen 3rd gen family as long as it supports AM4. So you can go to the Ryzen 5 series, which is all 6 core 12 threads, or the Ryzen 7 series, which is 8 cores and 16 threads. The Ryzen 5 3600 and 3600X are arguably some of the best processors in the world right now in terms of value for money, so you can easily upgrade to them. Other options are available from the Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7 2nd gen series, but since you're already on the 3rd gen and have a motherboard supporting the 3rd gen, it makes sense to stay with those. If you're thinking about upgrading the RAM, all you have to do is buy the exact same kit you are currently using. You cannot interchange and you cannot mix and match different sets, so they have to be the exact same size and exact same clock speed. And yeah, that's it guys, thanks for watching. Leave us a like if you like this video, leave us some feedback or any questions you have in the comments and I'll try and respond as quickly as possible. If you're planning on buying any of the components in this build guide, please use our links as it does help us out a lot. In addition, check out all of our social media if you use them, and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.